RC Guy Garage here, and we're back with another smiling face because, tell you, to be like that is corny, but, so Hosim actually sent me out the differential that broke, and like I had said, it was the response was very fast. I do have to say that Hosim as a company, they're responding extremely fast when I seem to come across issues, but this is the differential. It's a replacement. It's both the Diff, which is ring gear, pinion. So this is the rear. So it's a longer shafted pinion gear, the ring gear with obviously the associated pieces all in one, which I'm just calling as a complete differential. So it's a complete package. Maybe I just should have said it that way. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this thing because this thing did fail pretty quickly. So the question was it a failure on the differential part? Was it a failure on my part for not driving the car properly? Like I was going to say like misrepresenting, but it's not misrepresenting because I feel like the way I'm driving these things is the way a younger individual would drive it. And some of the benefits are that at least these RCs can be repaired. And I think that's the route that I'm kind of going to. Even though Frank and Arlo, if you don't know what Frank and Arlo is, that thing turned out to be a complete upgrade disaster. I still have the original parts, and I'm going to go ahead and see if I can resolve the issues with that truck, but that's a different episode. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to take this car, we're going to rip it apart. It's very easy actually to take this apart because the whole rear end comes off as a module, and I think it's only like 6 screws. So at least the pulling apart of this RC is fairly quick. So let's dive into this and see potentially, let's just repair this thing and take it out for a rip. Not potentially. We're just going to take it for a rip. Want to watch this episode? Here we go. This is the Hosim X07 or X07 RC car. It is a brushless. This motor has been replaced. This is a brushless system. So it does have an ESC with a little fan on it. There are a couple of little minor things that I did come across, like such as even this zip tie. This zip tie does have a tendency to go ahead and hit that fan blade, but I'm leaving it as is. This is the way they've got the car set up out of the box. I do have to see what's up with these things. So this thing seemingly had some positives. It had metal hubs, metal drive axles, metal cups. It had metal steering pieces. It's got a metal drive shaft. Like, it seems like it had a couple of things going for it. But then I came across a issue with the rear differential to where it broke the rear diff. So the differential that they did send out is the same exact differential. So did potentially I have a differential that was just bad? And you can see this is the longer shafted differential, and the reason why that is, or the longest shafted pinion, reason why that is because it accepts 2 gears. It's got a gear here and it's got a gear there. At least I think it accepts 2 gears. Something about it, there's a reason why it's long, is because it travels in, yeah, that's right. So it accepts the cup. Sorry, I said gear, but it accepts the input cup on one side, the gear in this side. No pins are in here, so you are going to be reusing your pins. That shouldn't be a problem because there shouldn't be anything wrong with the pins. The pins just hold the gear in place. Let's open this bag up. I'm going to open up the differential. I am going to squeeze a little bit of stuff in here because this is like a completely wide open rear diff, which I don't particularly care for. So I'm going to just stiffen up the rear end just a little bit, and we'll see if there's a negative effect. So taking off this rear module is fairly easy. It's 1, 2 screws there, I believe, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and things effectively come apart. Let's release these 2 screws here and get to work on this little RC. So 1 screw here, which mounts basically the case to the chassis. Same screw on this side. Right. It's one of these. It's this one. It's not in the same location because of the design. So those 2 screws and then flip the car over, and it's these 4 screws right here. And this whole piece comes off. We can go ahead and unplug the brushless motor. Go ahead and set this chassis aside. Alright, so you can see now it's basically, and now it's just a rear module. So what we're going to want to do is we want to split the case. Splitting the case is 1 screw there, 1 screw there, and then I believe a couple of more screws underneath where this little bumper attachment is. I think it's 2 screws. So, actually there's 1 right there too. So I think it might be 5 screws. Right there. The other thing that needs to happen is separation of, I'm trying to do this in the least amount of steps as possible, so I am going to go ahead and just release this 1 shock tower bolt. So this is like a, that's like a retainer. That's that screw right there, goes right through the shock tower. So at least I know that this, I believe, should be able to swing away. I'm trying to remember here how this works. Having a hard time remembering here. Maybe it's both. Let's go ahead and undo this one. The wing is held on by 2 screws. So I'm going to go after the 1 screw that's on this side here. Wondering if I should take off the cover plate as well. So the cover plate is held on by 1, 2, 3 screws. And that's the cover plate for the motor. You know what? I am going to go ahead and do that. Reason being is it'll get the motor out of the way. I realized I was recording at 2.7K, 60 frames per second, and I didn't need to do that because what it does is it heats up the camera and eats up memory and battery. So very easy to go ahead and pull that out. So you can see that screw that I was talking about right there. That one is out. And I'm going to go ahead and remove this little bumper support piece. 2 screws right in there. Not sure if these ones need to be done or not. Again, like I said, it might make it accessible or more accessible for getting to the 2 screws that are at the bottom of the case there. So that piece comes off, and okay, so there's 2 screws here, and these are hinge pin style screws, and what this does is holds the arms in place. So go ahead and remove that. See, it's a pin style. Go ahead and remove the other one with the little bracket. Now this can come off, but I don't think I need it to, because I just need to go ahead and get at that screw, and this whole top cover should come off. Alright, so what I am noticing is it is putting my screwdriver at a slight arc. So I'm going to go ahead and deal with that, but to take the wing off, it's these top screws. So slight arc, slight arc. These 2 screws should reveal or open up this whole top case, I believe. Oh, sorry, 1 more screw down there. Right in there. Getting the arm out of the way revealed that. There we go. As the whole top case comes off, it reveals that this does have a good amount of gears inside this thing. So this is the differential that failed. You can see it snapped off one tooth there and one tooth there. So we need to take the screws out of this drive cup because the new one doesn't have any. But what I did want to do before we go ahead and do that is I did want to open up this diff and get a look inside because I want to see how free it is. So here's the diff. It's the same exact style. So this could be a weak point. I think I was running on 3S, which probably is not recommended. I believe it does say that you can. I just don't know if it's a good idea. So we'll just crack this open. We'll see what's in here. So you'll be transferring your bearings and your cups with the screws. All right, let's see what we got in here. Tiniest amount of grease. Actually, no. I'm wrong. That's a good amount of grease in there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to squeeze a little bit of fluid in there. I'm going to squeeze some 50K in there. And it'll let it kind of mix. 50K might seem like a lot, but this is a pretty sizable RC. So I'll just squeeze some 50K in there. Just like that. Just to give it a little bit of extra tension, I guess. Like I was saying, the positiveness of stuff like this is the fact that at least these things do have parts. Whether the parts survive the abuse, that's what we're here to find out. So while this thing obviously had, you know, a differential that you could get, is it still just going to break again? And like I was saying, that's kind of what we're here to just, well, that's what I'm here to figure out. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and take this off. Now I'm not going to use, or actually should I? I suppose I should because you could say that there may have been damage to this pinion here. So maybe I should just go ahead and use that. So, let's see if these are easy to get out. Seems it. Okay. Easy to get out, but there we go. For a younger person, they may be asking their parent to go ahead and pop these off. This is where that becomes a little bit of a question. Maybe that's where the ages are coming from. Ages are coming from maybe the difficulty of a younger individual trying to pull these pieces off. Put that together. Make sure those holes are lined up. That side went on a lot easier. Here we go. Doesn't really have much of a tightness, but it is a little bit tighter than before. what I put in there probably isn't going to make a difference, but it will lubricate the gears way better than what this did. I'm not saying there wasn't a sufficient amount of grease, but sometimes with the grease they use, unless this is getting high RPM, it's not going to spread out. The grease seems to like stay in the middle, if that makes any sense. So this is that diff that's broken. It does have usable parts, so we'll go ahead and stuff it in there. I don't know if I'll ever use them, but there we go. All right, so now to go after this piece. So this is like a dual idler gear, which just sits on a shaft apparently, with a bearing on the front and a bearing on the back. The way this was totally fine. Operated extremely smoothly, so I don't think there's a worry on that. Go ahead and pull this piece out. Now this is the piece that we're going after, because what it does is it has the pin, you can see right there, and the gear, and then we've got to go ahead and just pull that little cup off so we can switch over to the new gear. Like I said, I'm not saying there's anything... Whoa.
This is what you can go ahead and call an unexpected intermission. You have 31 seconds. Go ahead and grab yourself a sandwich or a drink, or maybe even a bag of popcorn.
Yep. Alright, so just be careful, because what just happened on camera is exactly what's going to happen to you. Got myself good with that one. So maybe put it on a solid surface when you go ahead and do this. That was my fault. It seems like this one may be Loctited. Yeah, so this one's got the glue on it. So this one probably should have been heated up. I think sometimes they do glue and sometimes they don't. This one definitely had glue on it. We'll move that out of the way. Getting killed here. Is that still in the picture? It is. We don't need no red dots. Alright, so that screw now has to come off. So we'll go ahead and take the needle nose, see if I can grab that out of there. It's on there pretty good with the Loctite. Or glue. So be careful pulling that out. Yeah, there was a lot of glue on that. So now we'll go ahead and we'll pull this off. Provided it's going to let me. Jeez. It's on there pretty good. Wow. That really is on there. So that's going to take a little bit. There's another way to go ahead and do this, but it's not replacing the entire shaft. What it is, it's replacing the gear. There really doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with this gear. I just don't want issues with, you know, somebody saying that, you know, guy, you should have replaced the whole gear. So we're going to go ahead and just replace the gear now. Seeing that I'm coming across that issue like that, just going to go ahead and tighten this back down. Being careful. Give it a good crank. What I will do is I'll pull this gear off. We'll pull this gear off. Hopefully it's not glued on, but we're going to find out in a couple seconds. So get something to kind of grab a hold of it. put it down on a solid surface, and we're going to give it a crank. And it seems like it's coming out. Now, this is definitely going to be, this is definitely something that, I'm sorry, an adult is going to have to do this repair. So, that's just my personal opinion. So, I got that off, pull the gear off, we're good. Got to go ahead and grab this gear. Problem with that is, the problem that's going to be with that is a way to, is going to be a way to be able to hold this. So you're going to have to shove something in one of these holes here. So I'm going to use my 1.5 driver. Put it down at the end. And then carefully, let's go this way, guy. Carefully, see if I can release this screw. Okay. That needs fire. This repair is definitely not for a young person. I mean, they can do it, but they've got to be super responsible. It's almost like I'm heat treating the gear. Yeah. Wow, this is going to be rough. Let's put this at a side. See if it makes a difference. That did it. So that definitely released it. It's just now the gear is heat treated. Things flip-flopping all over the place here, guy. All right. This gear is going to be very hot. Okay. So we're going to now take our heat-treated gear. Hopefully slide that into place. Give it a couple of taps down. Looks like it's there. Now I am going to take some Loctite, because it did seem as though they did have glue on the screw. A little bit of Loctite on there. Hopefully get this into place. So you see this one's at least got the gear with the pin. So hopefully I can get this into place without it being a problem. I think we're good. Alright, so that's all together. So what I did have to do is ooh, that's still hot. So because I wanted to make sure that there wasn't going to be an issue, I don't see an issue with this gear, but because there were 2 teeth that got broken off by this, might as well just replace it. That way there's not going to be an issue. We put the brand new gear on. We did have to heat it up because of the glue that was used on this particular shaft, which is hot. So we're going to go ahead and drop this back into place. This side of the gears was dry. Making sure that pin aligns there. Okay. So we've got that installed. Go ahead and take this gear with its 2 bearings. Place that into place. It's got a very smooth operation. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to put a little bit of oil on there. I know this side was dry, but just put a couple of drops on there. A couple drops there. Let it eat it up. Put another drop on that side, another drop right there. Just let it eat it up. That'll be happier. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the diff. It only goes in one way. I am going to put my grease on there that I use just to hopefully give this thing a shot. So you should be able to see real time how this grease works. See how it kind of sucks it down into place? That's why I like this stuff. This is just a brake caliper grease. It's not designed for this, but really does seem to work well. So that kind of just sucks it down. And it does coat the gears, I think, very well. Schmutz right there. All right, so now we can go ahead and take this top case cover. We're going to place this back on. So just place this top cover right back on, just like that. And we'll put the case screws back in. Another screw right there. Make sure these are all tightened down. I think we're good. Now I could drop the motor in this time last, just to make the assembly just that much easier. So I'm going to go ahead and now reattach the suspension pieces. So feed that dog bone into there. Get that arm into place. Like that. Get this brace. So the brace has the 1 pin. And then the other pin side we can go ahead and put in. Line up the dog bone. Get that shock out of there. Put that in place. Slide that pin in. Go ahead and tighten up these 2. 1, 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach the shocks. Shocks were to the outer hull, So attaching the shocks is going to take 6 hands, because you need something to kind of guide it into place. See what I'm saying? Like, popping off the shock, you'd think probably would have been easier, but you got to take the screw out anyway because of the way it's designed. So again, it's not cranking stuff down. We'll attempt the same thing. Get that into place. Move it in like a thread. Yep. You can strip that plastic out super easy because it's very soft. So it's got a benefit and it's got a drawback. Super soft, but yeah. There's positives and there's negatives, man. All right, so we've got that screw for the chassis, that screw for the chassis, and that's this one and this one. And then we've got a couple of screws to go ahead and put things back together. So obviously we've got like the bumper brace, you know, type of deal. But let's go ahead and for now, let's reattach the bottom, the rear module, to the chassis. So now this is where I came across issues last time. So the issue that I came across last time was the fact that I got to remove this center spine brace piece. And the reason being is trying to get the drive shaft like into its little spot isn't easy because you can't see what's going on. If I remember right, I think the screws can be left in place on the brace or drive shaft cover, I think. See if I'm right. Yeah, so the screws can be left in place. So what happens is when the dog bone pops out, or the drive shaft, it'll have a tendency to want to slide forward, and you got to pick it up and put it inside. So now we can go ahead and just slide this into place, and we can put the 2 screws that attach it to the chassis there and there once we maneuver this into position. So we'll put this into place. We'll line up that together. You can see it kind of locks down and in. We'll put 1 screw on this side. That's a short screw. And we'll go ahead and get another screw there. That one may be a long screw. I have a feeling that's a long screw. These both actually might be long screws. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a long screw just to see what happens. That's definitely a long screw. Okay. So now we can flip this over. Get our wheelie bar. Slide that into place. And that was a couple second intermission because the GoPro battery died. So these are long screws. I'm going to go ahead and put the center spine piece back on. It's got the short end going towards the front. Go ahead and put the motor back in. Motor cover. And now we have 2 screws left, 1 short and 1 long. What that means is that I messed up. And I put a short screw, which is the one that's on this side, which needs to be a long screw, which was this one, on that side of the chassis. But I left it in, like I said, just because it was only 2 screws holding the RC together at the time. So that's in. Now, there's 2 screws for the wing. So you got one. It's actually for the bumper, not the wing. That one. And then this one. And I believe this thing is all together. Here we go. Plug in the motor wires. We'll toss a battery pack in it. So I am going to go yellow in the middle. And I think red was over here. We'll find out. And then blue. So I think on this particular one, I think it's blue, yellow, red. When you're looking from the back towards the front, you're looking at this side of the ESC, which is facing towards the So I think with the way these motor wires went, I don't even know if that was on. Blue, yellow, red. I'm gonna plug it in. I've got the remote. That's not it. Got the remote here somewhere. I stole the batteries from it. This is actually the remote. I never did steal the batteries from it. So let's just make sure this thing powers on. I'm gonna plug in a 2S pack to it. This is the pack that it came with, a nice healthy 5200 milliamp pack. So we'll go ahead and plug this in. I'm not gonna strap it in, I just wanna make sure that we've got motor rotation correct. So we got steering. And we got motor rotation wrong, but got something that doesn't sound good. Huh. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and switch 2 of these wires. Something's not sounding good. Yeah, it definitely doesn't sound good. This sounds terrible. Alright, so let's see. What did I fail with now? So first thing I'm going to do is just going to pop the motor off. See if that gear noise is still there. Got another cheap RC fail. So what potentially could have happened is I wonder if I have a screw in a wrong spot. I think all the screws went in the correct spots, but kind of does have that sound, doesn't it? So let's see. Yeah. It's got a sound like we've got something going on here. Okay. So it's not the motor. I'm going to go ahead and just loosen up these screws. See if somehow... See, these screws I'm not thinking would be the issue, but let's just go ahead and loosen these up. Just to see if somehow something got over tightened. Nope. still have issue. Okay. So these bumper screws, let's check these. These shouldn't be an issue. Let's just pop them out anyway. Look at that. Okay. One of these screws went down into the gear. Okay, so let's just put this back together. And not crank it. Look how smooth it is. Alright, let's go ahead and put the next small screw in. Over tightening the plastics, I guess, huh? There we go. Okay, I must have over tightened it. Alright. Good thing I checked. Get this motor back in place. Well, there's no torque specs. There's no torque specs here. Alright. Now I can go ahead and tighten these up because I know these weren't a problem. They're not near the gear anyway. The only ones that obviously were near the gear were the little bumper reinforcement piece. Alright. Now let's plug the battery back in. This time we're going to strap it in because we're going to take it out for a rip. Now the battery is seated into place. Get that under there. There we go. Power this on. Some power. Rev it up. It's not bad, man. On that 2S pack. All right, so obviously, you know, sometimes upgrades don't always go as planned. This wasn't an upgrade. This was replacing with a factory piece the rear differential that broke on 3S. I did take it to the skate park. I did break it on 3S. It was I think it was an on-power landing. No, actually, this wasn't skate park, was it? That was when I was I'm lost. This was when I was jumping it with the jump ramp on pavement. And I believe one of the landings was an on-power landing trying to get a backflip. And I think that's what broke it. Now, should that have broken the RC? Looking at the gear, yeah. The gear seems to be a weak point. So we're going to take this thing out to the backyard track and just give it a couple of runs. I still have the ramp set up. And we'll see if it survives. So I'll see you outside and we'll see if this is back, like, together, working. Yeah, I'll see you out back.